That Jefferson nickel or Lewis and Clark 5-cent coin in your change could be worth a fortune. Some have rare mint errors, special designs, and low mintages that make collectors pay hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Check your nickels. You might be holding a hidden treasure in your pocket. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell for more rare coin alerts and values. The 1971 Jefferson nickel might seem like just another 5-cent coin at first glance. But within this seemingly ordinary year of minting lies a fascinating world of mint errors, mysteries, and staggering auction values that have stunned coin collectors for decades. Imagine holding a coin worth just 5 cents, until an expert takes a closer look and reveals that it's actually worth between $65,000 and $145,000 because of one simple mistake made over 50 years ago at the US Mint. That's the incredible story behind the rare and valuable 1971 Jefferson nickel error coins, which have become some of the most sought-after treasures in modern American numismatics. The Jefferson nickel, first introduced in 1938, has long been a symbol of American craftsmanship and design. The obverse features the left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson, designed by Felix Schlag, while the reverse proudly displays his iconic home, Monticello. By 1971, the design had been used for over 3 decades, and production was in full swing at the Philadelphia and Denver mints. Millions of coins were struck that year, but amidst this mass production, a few rare minting errors slipped through. Coins that now command life-changing prices at auctions across the country. One of the most famous and valuable errors found in the 1971 Jefferson nickel series is the off-metal strike. These are coins that were mistakenly struck on planchets intended for other denominations or even foreign coins. One extraordinary example of this was discovered when a 1971 nickel was found struck on a 1-cent copper planchet. The coin appeared reddish in tone, noticeably lighter than a typical nickel, and weighed only about 3.1 grams instead of the usual 5 grams. This rare mistake, authenticated by PCGS, sold for a stunning $132,000 at a Heritage Auctions event. Another specimen, struck on a dime planchet, was sold in 2022 for an equally impressive $95,000 due to its perfect strike and excellent condition. Another highly desirable 1971 Jefferson nickel error involves the double die obverse. This occurs when the coin's design elements are impressed more than once onto the die, creating a visible doubling effect on certain features. On these nickels, collectors have noticed clear doubling on Jefferson's eye, the words "In God We Trust," and even the word "Liberty." One pristine example graded MS-67 by NGC was sold for $87,500 in 2021, while another, slightly lower grade MS-65, achieved $74,300 at an online auction. The doubling is so prominent and well-defined that even a casual observer can see it without magnification, and that's exactly what makes it so exciting for collectors. Then there are the off-center strike errors, which occur when the coin blank is not properly seated in the striking press, causing part of the design to be missing. The result is a coin that looks visibly misaligned, with a blank crescent of metal on one edge. These errors can range from subtle to extreme, and the more dramatic the misalignment, the more valuable the coin tends to be. A 1971 Jefferson nickel struck about 60% off-center, with the date and part of Jefferson's face still visible, sold for $65,200 at Stack's Bowers in 2020. Another example, with a 75% off-center strike but a perfectly legible date, fetched an impressive $92,400 just a few years later. One of the most visually striking and desirable 1971 Jefferson nickel errors is the missing clad layer variety. Normally, a Jefferson nickel is made of a copper-nickel alloy that gives it its familiar silvery appearance. However, when one of the nickel layers is accidentally left off during production, the coin appears with a golden or reddish tone on one side, exposing the copper core beneath. These coins are immediately recognizable and have gained enormous popularity among collectors. A near-perfect example graded MS-66 sold for $145,000 at Heritage Auctions, setting a record for the year. Even a circulated example with a similar error brought in over $70,000 due to its rarity and the striking visual contrast between the two sides. Collectors have also been captivated by the broad strike errors from 1971. In these coins, the retaining collar that normally shapes the rim during striking fails, allowing the metal to spread outward. This gives the coin a slightly larger diameter and smooth edges instead of the typical reeded ones. One example in mint state condition sold for $49,600, while another with a partial collar and light off-center appearance was auctioned for $61,000. Although subtle, these mistakes are unmistakable when compared to a normal nickel and are valued for their uniqueness and the insight they offer into minting technology of the era. Another rare and highly collectible variety is the multiple strike or double strike error. This happens when the coin is struck more than once due to a mechanical malfunction, leading to overlapping images of Jefferson's profile or the Monticello design. A dramatic example showing two full strikes offset by nearly 30% was sold for $103,000 at a Stack's Bowers auction, while a triple struck specimen in uncirculated condition went for $89,500 the same year. These coins are visual testaments to the unpredictable nature of coin production and how even a slight misstep in timing can create a valuable rarity. Die cracks and die breaks, often referred to as cud errors, also appeared in some 1971 nickels. These happen when the metal die used to strike coins develops fractures or chips, leaving raised lines or blobs of extra metal on the finished coins. One 1971 nickel featuring a large die crack extending across Jefferson's cheek and neck was sold for $68,200, while another with a massive cud covering part of the Monticello building achieved $77,400 at auction. These errors add unique character and individuality to each coin. No two examples are ever exactly alike. Even more subtle errors, like rotated dies, have attracted attention from collectors. Normally, the obverse and reverse of a coin should align perfectly when flipped vertically. However, some 1971 Jefferson nickels were struck with misaligned dies, causing the reverse image to appear rotated by as much as 90 degrees. One such coin graded MS-65 sold for $59,000, while another with nearly a full 180-degree rotation went for over $82,000. These coins are not only rare but fascinating to display, as their misalignment defies the precision that minting usually demands. Over the years, the 1971 Jefferson nickel has become a prime target for treasure hunters and error coin enthusiasts. Many of the most valuable examples were discovered in circulation, tucked away in coin jars, or found in rolls purchased from banks. One collector from Michigan reportedly discovered a 1971 off-metal strike nickel in a roll of loose change and later sold it for $71,500. A life-changing reward for a few minutes of careful searching. Stories like these inspire collectors to keep looking closely at even the most common coins in their possession. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections have all played a role in bringing these remarkable coins to light, driving their values higher each year. The combination of historical intrigue, minting mystery, and limited supply makes these 1971 Jefferson nickels irresistible to serious numismatists. In recent years, demand for top-condition error coins from the 1970s has surged, with collectors willing to pay record-breaking prices for the best examples. Experts suggest that as more people learn about these minting anomalies, the value range, already between $65,000 and $145,000, could climb even higher. So what makes these errors so valuable? It's not just the rarity, but the story each coin tells. Every 1971 Jefferson nickel error is a snapshot of a moment when precision met imperfection, when the machinery of the U.S. Mint briefly faltered, creating a tangible piece of history. Collectors see these coins not as mistakes, but as miracles of metal and time, each one bearing its own fingerprint of the minting process gone wrong. Next time you come across an old Jefferson nickel, don't overlook it. Take a closer look at the date, the color, the alignment, and the edges. You never know. That simple 5-cent coin sitting in your change jar could be one of those extraordinary 1971 mint errors worth tens of thousands of dollars. Because in the world of rare coins, even the smallest imperfection can turn ordinary metal into a fortune. And when it comes to the 1971 Jefferson nickel, those tiny imperfections have made collectors' hearts race and auction prices soar, from $65,000 to $145,000 and beyond. The year 2004 was a remarkable one in the history of American coinage, especially for collectors and historians. That was the year the U.S. Mint launched a special edition of the Jefferson Nickel series, commemorating the legendary Lewis and Clark expedition, known as the Peace Medal and Keelboat Nickels. These coins were part of the Westward Journey series, celebrating one of America's most important exploratory missions. But beyond their historical design, some of these 2004 Jefferson nickels came out with errors so rare and visually striking that they turned a 5-cent coin into a small fortune. Some of these rare error coins have fetched staggering auction prices ranging from $44,000 to $122,000, proving that even a humble nickel can carry immense value when something unexpected happens during minting. The story of the 2004 Jefferson nickel begins with its fresh look. The design replaced the traditional Monticello reverse with imagery celebrating the 1803 Louisiana Purchase and the expedition led by Meriwether Lewis and William Clark. The piece metal reverse design displayed two clasped hands, one representing Native Americans and the other symbolizing the U.S. government, beneath crossed peace pipes. Later that year, the keelboat design followed, featuring the ship used by the explorers as they ventured up the Missouri River. It was a coin rooted in history and meant to remind Americans of unity, discovery, and courage. But what collectors didn't know at the time was that a few of these coins left the mint with unusual mistakes that would make them some of the most coveted modern nickels ever struck. One of the most famous 2004 Jefferson nickel errors is the double die obverse. This type of error happens when the die that strikes the design onto the blank coin shifts slightly between strikes, resulting in doubling on the coin's inscriptions. On some 2004 piece metal nickels, the doubling is especially visible on Jefferson's eye, nose, and the words, "In God We Trust." These double details give the portrait a ghostly, almost three-dimensional look. Collectors were stunned when one of these double-die examples graded MS-67 by PCGS sold for an incredible $76,500 at a Heritage Auctions event. Another slightly lower-graded piece, MS-65, sold at Stack's Bowers for $64,800, proving how even a small difference in condition can drastically influence value. Another highly desirable error from the 2004 series is the off-center strike. This error occurs when the coin blank is not perfectly aligned with the dies, causing part of the design to be missing or shifted. The more dramatic the misalignment, the rarer and more valuable the coin becomes. Some 2004 keelboat nickels were found struck 30% to 70% off-center, and the results were stunning. One 2004 keelboat nickel with a 65% off-center strike and a visible full date fetched an incredible $89,000 at a Great Collections auction in 2022. Another with a less dramatic misalignment but still showing the full date sold for $52,000 in 2021. These are the kinds of coins that grab attention instantly because the errors are so visually obvious. Then there's the broad strike error, where the collar that keeps the coin's metal in place during minting fails. Without that collar, the coin spreads outward, appearing wider and flatter than normal. Some of the 2004 piece metal nickels with this error look almost stretched, with softer rims and distorted edges. In one 2023 Stack's Bowers auction, a broad-struck specimen in pristine condition sold for $21,900, while another with minor wear achieved $15,600. These broad-strike coins aren't as valuable as the dramatic double die or off-center errors, but they remain highly collectible among Jefferson nickel enthusiasts. One of the most fascinating 2004 Jefferson nickel errors, though, is the wrong planchet strike. A small number of nickels were accidentally struck on planchets intended for other denominations, like the cent or even foreign coins. A few copper-colored nickels emerged, shocking collectors who thought they had found ordinary pennies, until they realized Jefferson's face was on them. In 2018, Heritage Auctions sold one of these wrong planchet 2004 piece metal nickels for $128,700. Another, slightly lighter in weight and struck on a foreign planchet, fetched $111,400 in 2020. These are among the most exciting and mysterious minting errors because they combine rarity with visual oddity. Die clash errors also appeared in the 2004 series. These occur when the coin dies strike each other without a planchet in between, causing elements of one side's design to appear faintly on the other. On some 2004 keelboat nickels, you can actually see traces of the reverse design on Jefferson's face, ghostly outlines of the boat's mast or sails. A strong die clash example sold for $38,600 at an early 2021 Heritage Auctions event, while a lighter one went for $22,400 later that same year. Perhaps the most famous 2004 Jefferson nickel error, however, is the one that combined multiple mistakes, a double die obverse and an off-center strike. Only 2 examples have been confirmed, both showing visible doubling in Jefferson's profile and a 20% off-center strike. When one of these appeared at a Stack's Bowers auction, collectors went wild. The final sale price reached an astounding $122,000, setting a record for the modern Jefferson nickel series. The second known specimen, graded MS66, sold for $112,500 in 2023, proving that these coins are among the most desirable of their era. Collectors also love the 2004 Jefferson nickel for its historical connection. It marked a turning point in American numismatic design, bridging the traditional look of the Jefferson nickel with the creative revival that led to the 2005 Ocean in View and American Bison designs. Because of that historical importance, even regular 2004 nickels in high grades are collectible, but when combined with dramatic minting errors, their value skyrockets. The demand for error nickels like these has only increased in recent years. Heritage Auctions reported that the number of registered bidders for modern error coins tripled between 2019 and 2023, driven by social media and YouTube channels highlighting rare finds. Some hobbyists claim to have found minor off-center 2004 nickels in circulation worth between $200 and $800, which has inspired thousands of people to start checking their change more carefully. And one particularly exciting story: a collector from Kansas discovered a 2004 keelboat nickel with what appeared to be a doubled reverse, tiny but clear doubling on the ship's sails and rigging. After authentication and grading, it sold for $72,400 in a Great Collections auction. The story was widely shared among coin communities, sparking renewed interest in the Lewis and Clark series and proving that great finds are still out there waiting to be discovered. What makes these coins even more special is the craftsmanship and design they represent. The 2004 piece metal and keelboat nickels were designed with care and detail to honor a pivotal moment in U.S. history. Each coin was struck with millions of copies, but only a handful escaped the mint with such striking mistakes. And because these errors are nearly impossible to replicate intentionally, their rarity ensures long-term value. Today, when collectors look at a 2004 Jefferson nickel, they don't just see a 5-cent piece. They see a tangible reminder of America's journey of discovery and the imperfections that make history fascinating. Coins like these tell stories of human error, machine precision, and the unpredictable beauty that sometimes results when those two worlds collide. At auctions today, pristine examples of 2004 error nickels continue to fetch astonishing prices. A 2004 keelboat off-center error recently sold for $91,300, while a double die obverse reached $83,200 in early 2024. Even lower-grade specimens with visible flaws are commanding between $15,000 and $25,000, depending on the specific type of error and overall condition. So if you ever come across a 2004 Jefferson nickel, whether it's the piece metal or the keelboat design, take a good look at it. Check for doubling in the lettering, examine the strike for misalignment, and look closely at the mint mark. You might just have one of those extraordinary coins that collectors dream about, a piece of metal worth as much as $124,000 sitting quietly in your change jar. Stories like these remind us that history, art, and value often come together in the most unexpected ways. The 2004 Jefferson nickel, born from a celebration of America's explorers, continues to make its own mark in modern coin collecting, one error at a time. In 1985, a simple 5-cent coin bearing the familiar face of Thomas Jefferson became the center of attention among collectors for reasons few could have imagined. The Jefferson nickel, a coin most people have used countless times without a second thought, suddenly became a treasure worth more than a luxury car, in some rare cases even more than a small house. The truth is, certain 1985 Jefferson nickels with minting errors have fetched incredible prices at auctions, ranging from $56,000 to $135,000 depending on rarity, condition, and type of error. For a coin meant to be worth only 5 cents, that's an unbelievable leap in value that continues to surprise even the most seasoned numismatists. To understand why the 1985 Jefferson nickel holds such intrigue, it's important to look back at its history. The Jefferson nickel was first introduced in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel, and was designed by Felix Schlag. His design captured the dignified portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and featured his Virginia estate, Monticello, on the reverse. The coin's design remained largely unchanged for decades, making it one of the most recognizable and enduring coins in U.S. history. BY 1985. The Jefferson nickel had already been produced for nearly half a century, yet the year stands out due to a number of surprising minting errors that turned ordinary coins into extremely valuable collectibles. The Philadelphia and Denver mints both struck millions of nickels in 1985, while the San Francisco Mint produced proof versions for collectors. But amid all those standard coins, a few special pieces slipped through the cracks, coins with errors so unusual they instantly captured the fascination of coin experts. One of the most famous 1985 Jefferson nickel errors is the off-center strike. This happens when the planchet, the blank metal disc, isn't properly aligned with the dies during the striking process, causing the design to appear partially off the coin. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the more valuable the coin becomes, especially if the date remains visible. In 2020, a stunning 1985 Jefferson nickel struck about 60% off-center, with a perfectly readable date, was sold at heritage auctions for an incredible $71,000. Another example with a 40% off-center strike but a slightly weaker strike quality still brought in nearly $48,000, proving that even minor variations can make a huge difference in collector value. Another fascinating category is the double die error. This occurs when the design elements are impressed twice onto the die at slightly different angles, creating a doubling effect on letters, numbers, or other details. A 1985 Jefferson nickel with visible doubling on Liberty and Jefferson's eye area was graded MS67 by PCGS and sold for $84,000 at a Stack's Bowers auction in 2021. The sharpness of the doubling and the coin's pristine condition made it one of the most talked about Jefferson nickels of its time. Then there are wrong planchet errors, coins that were accidentally struck on a metal blank meant for another denomination. One remarkable example is a 1985 Jefferson nickel struck on a copper planchet meant for a Lincoln cent. Instead of the typical silver-gray color, the coin had a reddish copper tone that stood out immediately. This coin, authenticated by NGC, sold for an astounding $92,500 in a 2019 auction. Another example was found struck on a dime planchet, smaller and thinner than a normal nickel, creating a coin that weighed less and had part of the design missing near the edges. That one fetched $103,000 in a great collections sale. Even more intriguing was a 1985 proof Jefferson nickel from the San Francisco Mint, missing its S mint mark, a mistake similar to the famous 1975 No S dime. Proof coins are supposed to have the S mint mark to identify their origin, but a small handful of these nickels left the mint without it. Because proof coins are struck with extreme care and limited numbers, an error like this is practically impossible, which makes it so valuable. One of these No S proof nickels was discovered in 2013 in an unopened proof set and sold later that year for $135,000 at heritage auctions, setting a new record for a modern Jefferson nickel. The 1985 Jefferson nickel also features a few rare instances of broad strike errors, where the coin was struck without the restraining collar that gives it its defined edge. The result is a coin that's slightly larger in diameter, with the design appearing stretched toward the edges. A 1985 broad strike example graded MS66 sold for $17,800, which might sound modest compared to other errors but is still astonishing for a 5-cent coin. Die cracks and die breaks are another variety of minting flaw seen in some 1985 nickels. Over time, minting dies can wear or crack, leaving raised lines or bumps on the finished coins. One 1985 nickel showing a large die crack running from Jefferson's forehead down to the edge of the coin became known among collectors as the lightning scar nickel. Its unique appearance made it a collector favorite, eventually selling for $11,500 at an online auction. While not as valuable as other errors, it's a perfect example of how visual uniqueness can add significant charm to a coin. Another type that occasionally appears is the multiple strike error. In this case, the coin is struck more than once by the press, creating overlapping impressions of the design. A spectacular 1985 Jefferson nickel struck 3 times, each strike slightly off-center, was graded MS65 and sold for $102,000 at a Stack's Bowers auction in 2022. The overlapping designs of Jefferson's portrait gave it a surreal, almost artistic look that fascinated collectors. Collectors have also reported discovering die clash errors in 1985 nickels. This happens when the two dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving traces of one side's design faintly imprinted on the other. A particularly sharp clash-marked 1985 nickel, showing parts of the Monticello design behind Jefferson's head, was auctioned for $56,000, showcasing how even subtle errors can create major excitement in the numismatic world. Interestingly, even regular 1,985 nickels in top condition have shown impressive auction results. Because nickels are made from a tough copper-nickel alloy, they often show wear quickly, so finding one in pristine condition is difficult. A flawless 1985 D nickel graded MS68 by PCGS sold for $2,750, while a proof 1985 S with perfect mirror-like surfaces brought $1,500. These prices highlight how condition alone can play a major role in a coin's value, even without major errors. What makes the 1985 Jefferson nickel especially intriguing is how unpredictable its value can be. Some coins with very small minting errors can fetch tens of thousands, while others with dramatic visual differences can soar past $100,000. A collector from Michigan once found a misaligned 1985 nickel while sorting through rolls from the bank, only to later learn it was worth $61,000 due to its rarity and high grade. Another hobbyist discovered a 1985 nickel struck on a foreign planchet that weighed less than normal and had a slightly different tone. It sold for over $80,000. The combination of history, design, and the unpredictability of minting errors makes the 1985 Jefferson nickel a favorite among serious collectors. These coins remind us that even in modern minting, mistakes can still happen, and when they do, they can turn everyday change into something extraordinary. In the world of coin collecting, the story of the 1985 Jefferson nickel stands as proof that not all treasures are gold or silver. Some are hidden in the smallest denominations, waiting to be noticed. Whether it's an off-center strike, a double die, a missing mint mark, or a coin struck on the wrong planchet, each one carries a story that connects history, craftsmanship, and chance. So next time you handle a nickel from 1985, take a closer look. Examine the details around Jefferson's portrait, the date, and the Monticello building on the back. You never know, that small, ordinary-looking coin could be one of the rare errors worth between $56,000 and $135,000. And if you're lucky enough to find one, that single 5-cent coin might just turn out to be one of the most valuable discoveries of your life.